I'm Camila. Standing in the Wake County Courthouse, the air thick with the scent of varnish and old paper, I watched as Judge Thompson delivered her verdict. The room fell silent as she declared, "This petition is dismissed with prejudice." What I see here is not protection, but exploitation. A wave of relief washed over me, yet I knew my fight to protect my daughter Luna's legacy was far from over. My mind flashed back to the day that shattered my world. The ground beneath my feet was soft, the damp earth swallowing all sound. Luna's casket seemed impossibly small as it sank into the Georgia clay at Pinewood Cemetery. She had battled a rare blood disorder for almost a year, and now I was left with a silence heavier than any diagnosis. I gripped the hem of my black coat, trying to steady my trembling hands. Only Mrs. Jenkins, my 75-year-old neighbor, stood by my side. She had been a rock during Luna's long hospital stays, bringing me home-cooked meals, watching over Luna when I needed a break, and sitting with us through countless fevers and transfusions. Today, she was the only one present, her weathered hand resting gently on my arm. My parents, Carl and Doris, and my sister Nicole were nowhere to be seen. As the minister murmured words of comfort, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Without thinking, I pulled it out, desperate for some connection. The screen opened to Instagram, and there was Nicole, glass of champagne in hand, a large diamond on her finger sparkling. A new photo, posted just minutes earlier. My parents flanked her, smiling as if nothing in the world had been lost. The location tag read, "The Regal Hotel, Atlanta." The pain in my chest intensified. They hadn't been delayed or overcome by grief. They had chosen not to come. Another buzz. A text from my mother. "Stop being so dramatic. This is urgent." For a split second, I hoped she was finally reaching out, offering the words of comfort I so desperately needed. But the next message revealed the truth. "We need to discuss Luna's trust fund. $1,200,000 can't just sit there." Mrs. Jenkins squeezed my shoulder, sensing the chill that ran through me. I closed my phone and stared at the grave, knowing that the next day, I would have to face them. The morning after the funeral, the sky was a dull gray as I drove down the tree-lined streets of Elmwood Heights. My parents' Victorian-style house looked as immaculate as ever, the black shutters freshly painted, the cobblestone walkway swept clean. I parked at the curb, my stomach in knots. Before I could knock, the front door opened. My father stood in the entryway, his face a mask of feigned concern. "Camila, come in. We've been waiting," he said, his voice warm but the words sounding rehearsed. Inside, the living room was set up like a business meeting. My mother stood by the fireplace, and Nicole sat on the sofa, dressed in a crisp designer suit. And there was Lily, once my closest friend, sitting on the edge of a chair, avoiding my eyes. A folder lay open on the coffee table, papers neatly arranged. Nicole leaned forward and slid a page towards me. "It's simple, Camila. Luna's trust is substantial, and you're not in a state to manage it responsibly. If you sign here, I'll be the trustee. I'll make sure the money is used wisely for the family." My mother chimed in, her voice sickly sweet but with an edge. "We're just thinking of you, dear. Grief has clouded your judgment. You shouldn't have to bear this burden alone." I picked up one of the pages, my hands shaking. In the margin, I noticed a notation. The date was from last spring, months before Luna even started her final treatments. It hit me like a cold splash of water. They had been planning this all along, waiting for the worst to happen. My throat burned, but I forced my voice to stay steady. "No, I won't sign." Nicole's smile faltered, and her eyes hardened. "Don't be impulsive, Camila. We're trying to help you." I placed the papers back on the table, stood up, and walked towards the door. My father's voice followed me. "You're making a big mistake." I didn't turn back. Outside, the cool Atlanta air filled my lungs. I realized this wasn't just grief talking, it was a well-thought-out plan they had concocted while I was fighting for Luna's life. I knew I needed to find someone who could help me expose their true intentions. That night, I couldn't sleep. The papers Nicole had shown me burned in my memory. I sat at my kitchen table, the folder I had taken with me unopened, and my mind wandered back to the day Jake, Luna's father, first told me about the trust. It was 7 years ago, before our marriage fell apart and before his job transferred him to New York. We were sitting at the dining room table, Luna asleep upstairs. Jake signed the documents and said, "If anything happens, this is for you. You've sacrificed your career, your savings, everything for her. This fund ensures you won't be left with nothing." At the time, I thought it was unnecessary planning, something to file away and forget. Now, his foresight was my only hope. Just after dawn, the phone rang. It was Jake's parents, Tom and Betty, calling from Florida. Betty's voice cracked as she spoke. "Camila, we just heard. We loved that little girl so much." Tom added, "If you need us, we'll come. Whatever it takes, we'll stand by you." Their grief was raw and genuine, a stark contrast to the fake sympathy I had received from my own family. Later that day, Mrs. Jenkins stopped by with a cup of coffee. "You can't face them alone. You need a lawyer, someone who won't be intimidated by their games," she said firmly. That afternoon, I dialed the number she had written down. It was for Mr. Harris, a lawyer in Atlanta. His receptionist managed to fit me in for the next morning. Mr. Harris's office smelled of leather and old books. He listened intently as I explained the situation, sliding Jake's trust folder across his desk. After reviewing it, he leaned back and adjusted his glasses. Jake was very precise. "The trust names you as the residual beneficiary, and it has multiple safeguards against family interference. They have no legal right to take it." Relief washed over me, but I also knew my family wouldn't give up easily. Mr. Harris didn't mince words. "They'll come at you harder. If they sense any hesitation, they'll try to undermine your credibility. You need to document everything, every lie, every omission, every attempt to pressure you." That night, I sat at my laptop, scrolling through Nicole's Instagram feed. The photos from the Regal Hotel were filled with glitz and champagne, taken at the exact time I was burying Luna. I printed them out, each image more nauseating than the last. Nicole's perfect smile, my parents' happy faces, and the caption, "A new beginning." The next day, Mrs. Jenkins brought me a box of notebooks. "I've kept journals," she said simply. Inside were pages of her neat handwriting, documenting the nights she brought me food, the afternoons she sat with Luna during transfusions, and the times she drove us home from the hospital. By evening, I ordered 2 security cameras and installed them at the front and back of my house. I wasn't going to be caught off guard again. 3 days later, I agreed to meet Nicole and my parents at a coffee shop in Atlanta, hoping the public setting would make them behave. They arrived together, Nicole leading the way, her high heels clicking on the tile floor. My father wasted no time. "Camila, we need to finalize this. Sign the trustee papers and let's move on." I kept my voice calm, though my hands were clenched into fists under the table. Jake wrote protections into the trust. It can't be changed without his consent, and he made me the beneficiary. "You know this." Nicole's smile turned cold, and her eyes sparkled with anger. "If you don't cooperate, we'll have to go to court. They'll see you're too emotional to handle this kind of money." I slid the printed trust clause across the table. "Then the court will see Jake's intentions clearly." Their faces fell silent, and the weight of the paper between us was louder than their words. I gathered my things, stood up, and walked out, my heart pounding but my resolve stronger than ever. The first sign of their next move came through Facebook. Nicole posted a photo of herself, looking sad, with the caption, "Pray for my sister, who's struggling with mental health after losing her child." Sometimes, love means intervening when they can't see clearly. The comments were full of sympathy and praise for her kindness. 2 days later, the local paper ran a story, Family seeks help for grieving mother. My parents posed on the front porch of their house, looking solemn. My father's quote read, "It breaks our hearts, but we have to protect her from herself." I sat at my kitchen table, the newspaper spread out in front of me. I realized they weren't just after the trust, they were trying to paint me as unstable. Then, I received a call from the hospital's records office. Ms. Parker, I'm required to inform you of a privacy breach. Someone accessed Luna's medical file last week using an old emergency contact authorization. We've traced it to your sister's information. A wave of rage washed over me. Luna's records, every detail of her suffering, were being used against me. At church on Sunday, I saw Lily across the aisle. She shifted uncomfortably when our eyes met and quickly turned away. Later, Mr. Harris confirmed what I already suspected. She had signed an affidavit saying I was erratic during Luna's illness. I closed my eyes and pictured Luna in her princess pajamas, bravely facing her treatments. If she could be so strong, I could face this. I started gathering all the evidence, the Facebook posts, the hospital letter, and Lily's affidavit. Mr. Harris spread out a stack of folders on his desk. We need a timeline. Every hospital visit, every treatment decision, every bill. The more detailed, the better our defense. For the next hour, I filled his desk with appointment slips, insurance statements, and my own calendars marked in red ink. Each date brought back memories of Luna's fevers, my sleepless nights in the hospital, and the doctor's worried faces. Mr. Harris took notes carefully, as if each line was a brick in the wall we were building against my family's case. He also insisted I get a psychiatric evaluation. Not because I doubt you, but because they'll claim grief has made you unfit. We need to stop them before they can use it. A week later, sitting across from the evaluator, I answered every question steadily, even though the grief felt like a physical weight on my chest. When the report came back saying I was competent, I tucked it into my folder like a shield. Jake's parents arrived from Florida, carrying a manila envelope. Inside were notarized statements of Jake's intentions. Betty's hands shook as she handed it to me. He trusted you, Camila. He knew you'd honor Luna's memory. Mrs. Jenkins came that evening with her journals tied up with twine. Every moment, every meal, every night I was with you is in here. They can't erase our memories. I thought I was prepared for anything, but I wasn't ready for the night Nicole showed up on my porch. My camera caught her standing in the porch light, her voice low but menacing. You've always been a burden. Sign the papers, or we'll ruin you. This time, I didn't flinch. I let the recording roll and then closed the door in her face. For the first time, I felt the balance shifting in my favor. Now, here I was in the courtroom. My parents and Nicole sat at the petitioner's table, their faces masks of sorrow. Lily sat beside them, clutching her affidavit. They looked more like actors in a play than a grieving family. Judge Thompson entered the courtroom with authority. These are serious allegations. I expect evidence, not theatrics, she said. The petitioner's attorney started by painting me as an unstable mother, overcome by grief. Lily took the stand, her voice trembling just enough to sound believable. Camila would call me in the middle of the night, hysterical. She was paranoid about the doc. After a moment, she spoke with steel in her voice. This petition is dismissed. What I see here is exploitation, not protection. She ordered an investigation into perjury and issued a restraining order. Relief washed over me as Mr. Harris gathered the files. 2 days after the hearing, the local paper ran a front-page story, Mother Vindicated in Trust Battle. My picture was small, but the article told the truth about how the guardianship petition had been thrown out and how the judge had ordered an investigation. News traveled fast. Nicole's fiancé issued a statement, but the damage was done. Their engagement ended, and she deleted the photos from the Regal Hotel. But the internet remembers. Screenshots circulated, showing where she was while I was burying Luna. My parents retreated into silence as word spread that they might face charges for false testimony. I thought it would bring me satisfaction, but instead, it left a hollow feeling. Lily lost her job after the recording came out. The woman who had once been my best friend now avoided me at the grocery store. One evening, Mrs. Jenkins sat across from me at the kitchen table, sipping tea from a chipped mug. They tried to bury you, Camila, but you built something from the ashes. That's what Luna would be proud of. I thought about the word family. It no longer meant blood or inheritance. It was about the people who stood by me when everything fell apart. With Mr. Harris's help, I established the Luna Parker Foundation. Its mission was to support families dealing with pediatric blood disorders and fund research that could save other children. The first project was at the local children's hospital, which had been our second home during Luna's illness. A plaque was installed in the new wing, the Luna Parker Pediatric Hematology Unit. Mrs. Jenkins became the volunteer coordinator, organizing meal trains and support for the parents. Mr. Harris handled all the legal work pro bono, making sure the foundation was secure. Jake's parents started a grandparent advocacy program, connecting families like ours to resources. For the first time in months, I felt strong enough to speak in front of groups. At a support meeting, I told the other parents about Luna, her bravery, her laughter, and her dreams of becoming a doctor. My voice didn't shake, and my hands were steady. As I drove home that night, I realized the promise I had made at Luna's grave was becoming a reality. The next day, I returned to Pinewood Cemetery with a bouquet of flowers and Luna's favorite teddy bear. I knelt beside her grave, brushing away the leaves. "Your name is everywhere now, Luna," I whispered. "In the hospital, in the research labs, in the families who are no longer alone." A voice behind me said, "Excuse me, are you Camila Parker?" I turned to see a woman holding the hand of a little girl. The mother's eyes were filled with tears. "I'm Mrs. Davis. This is Emily. She was diagnosed with the same disorder as Luna last year. The specialist funded by your foundation found a treatment that worked. She's alive because of you and Luna." Emily stepped forward, shy but determined. "Thank you for helping me get better." I crouched down to meet her eyes. "You're welcome, Emily. You're why we do this." As they walked away, I touched Luna's headstone. A warmth spread through me. Luna's legacy wasn't just in the stone or the court documents. It lived in the children like Emily, in the families who now had hope. Family, I realized, is about choice, loyalty, and love, the kind that endures when everything else fades away. And as I stood there, I knew I had the strength to face whatever the future held.